to talk about my first accounting job, which was at Boster Supply Company in LA. It was actually located at 750 East Gage Avenue. I believe it was just east of Avalon Boulevard, city of Los Angeles. I had gone to a business college, South Bay College of Business, on Hawthorne Boulevard in the city of Hawthorne. And from like 74 to 75, I actually, I believe I got my certificate in June of 75. And I started applying for jobs, and I was offered and accepted a job at Boster Supply Company, which is a fastener company. Now, not really exciting. You don't expect your first job in your career to be in such an exciting field as fasteners, which is specifically screws, nuts, and bolts, not general hardware. So anyway, but I was grateful to have the job, and I was hired by Miss Patterson. She was a bookkeeper, and I was hired as an assistant bookkeeper, which was actually, I really wasn't an assistant bookkeeper. I was actually more like an accounting clerk. I did all the receivables, and I also did inventory control. Back then, it's like she was called Miss Patterson, and she was an older woman. She along with anybody that was any kind of management position was called Mr. or Miss or whatever, and they were really, that wasn't generally done in the 70s. I think they were like a throwback to like the 40s or 50s, because none of the other jobs I ever had after that ever had anybody saying Mr. or Miss, so on. So anyway, basically what I did is like we had a Burroughs bookkeeping machine, which is really old. I'll talk about that some other time. It was old at the time. It was probably bought, new in the 1950s, and they bought it refurbished in the night, probably not long before I started working there. Anyway, some of the people that worked there were Mr. Boster, owned the company, Robert Boster, and Mr. Frank. His first name was Cyril Frank. He actually just went by Frank anyway, because I think a lot of people mispronounced his name, first name. And then there was Juanita DeGrew, who was she was like the admin person, receptionist and admin. She did a lot of admin work. And Russ Skinner was he was a order taker. He took a lot of phone calls and took orders for our products. And then there was probably a year or two into it, there was a lady named Verna. Don't remember her last name. She also did order taking, and then also. Probably about a year before I left, Sandy, she was, I don't recall her last name, she was actually friends with my boyfriend had his name was Ken. He had another friend named Ken that he knew from work, and Sandy was his wife, and I got her a job there as an order taker. And some of the things about the company is I always wore, back then it's like I always wore a skirt, a blouse, or a dress, with some heels of some kind, and didn't wear pants or anything back then. There was a spindle in the middle of the room that we all had access to. We could turn around, and that's where we kept our inventory, all of every single product we had. And actually, it's like with me, I would update the inventory. With the order takers, they would check to see how many they had left. It was kind of funny, because it was like probably 3 rows of all of these books, and you would, you kind of spin it around to find the right book and pull a book out. The building is actually still there. I think Boster Supply Company went out of business some years ago, not a really long time ago. It looks like somebody still kind of owned the business, but not necessarily there. Then the last time I checked, it didn't seem like anybody had that business at all. And I did go by the building a few years ago. It was a mattress company or something, and they painted it. It was a brick building, and they painted it white. That whole area is like industrial area, and they painted, which looked really ugly. And it's like it's a brick building. There was. Let's see. We also had West Coast Fasteners, which was actually really small in the back. There was probably only a few employees back there, and actually total there were like I don't think the company had more than like 20 employees. There was also a guy whose name escapes me. He also worked in the, he did like, I guess shipping and receiving is what he probably did. And those are the people I kind of remember. There was a, at the end of the street, there was a, not a long walk at all. There was a hamburger stand we go to. An Asian man owned it, and I'd go there a couple times a week, sometimes more often. I'd pick up something to eat, and it's like, what was interesting is, like, if you said onion rings, if you wanted some onion rings, he would say onion rings, so, and it's kind of funny, the weird things that you remember through life. So, anyway, the hamburger stand, it's like the other thing though about the weird about the hamburger stand is like what's odd about it is like not all that long before I left, in 1979, and they had like a break-in, and the guy went down the chimney thing and he got stuck. He went and did it during the middle of the night, so in the morning they had to rescue the guy, and he got arrested, of course. And then let's see. There was I think a Burroughs bookkeeping machine I worked on, and the Burroughs bookkeeping machine was like really interesting because it would it was like a giant typewriter. That's the best way to describe it. A giant typewriter, and you'd put like the ledger in. You'd put the sheet in, a giant sheet. And then you put like a ledger card in. I don't remember the details, but I remember it scaring the heck out of Juanita. She hated working on the thing because it would like you punch numbers in, and then like when it would like go cling, it's like bling, back and forth. No computers back then, but that's what I remember out of it. She didn't like it. It scared her. I'll talk a little bit more in a different video about some of the people that worked there, like Miss Patterson. She was a real, influence on me, and she liked me a lot. It's like the other thing I have to say is like the pay, the rate of pay. I hope you're sitting down. When I started working there, when they offered me the job, I started at $3 an hour. To put that in perspective, yeah, $3 an hour. The going rate, the minimum wage, I believe, was like $2.10 an hour. So it's like, so $3 an hour was actually decent pay. It's like, and from there, the one nice thing about Miss Patterson is that over a period of time while I was working there, she would always give me a raise without me even asking. It's like, which is really good. It's like you shouldn't really have to ask for a raise. You should, if you're doing a good job, they should give it to you. The one thing about that company that particularly stands out about is like that. Along with the long accounting career I was in accounting for like 26 years. It actually stands as the longest place I ever worked. I started in around July of '74, and and then I left. I think it was around the end of January of 1979. So I was there for 3.5 years, and no other company. I never stayed that long in any other company. So it says a lot about it. But it was time for me to move on, and I had. There were some things that were changing at the company. Miss Patterson passed away in '78. Some guy came in that was doing odds and ends and stuff. They were crazy about him. I don't know why. I don't remember his name or anything. He probably didn't stay all that long. He sort of started doing my work, and then, but when I quit. But I think it was time to leave, and I was offered a job. I put some resumes out, and I was offered a job at Carroll Shelby Enterprises, which is like hard to turn down. So, and it was closer to home too. So I'll talk a little bit more about some other stuff about Boster Supply Company in another video. Thanks for watching.